Okay, great. Yeah, so the introduction is already made. So we talked today about uh, wrap up your or revolutionize your workflow, and we will have a short introduction into digital, what we do at Digital Switzerland. Uh, uh, and then we will continue talking with the speakers. They will introduce what they do before we then go to the Q&A session. So Digital Switzerland, we are a Swiss-wide cross-industry initiative. Maybe now you can also obviously see all the pictures. I'll take it off. And yeah, our goal or our mission is to transform digital Switzerland into a leading digital nation, and we do so by yeah, being an intermediary between different stakeholders, between economy, science, politics, and the population. And our goal is to build trustworthy digital ecosystems, but also, of course, to build the people, or like to train the people, and to push for initiatives that will educate people and yeah, support them in lifelong learning. We have different focus projects and expert groups that are linked to this topic. So beside of education, we have AI literacy that Cecil is leading. Then we have a team working on digital infrastructure and cybersecurity. We have a team working on sustainability, people working on public affairs, and also a team working on digital health. And with this, I think I will already give the floor to the panelists. And we start with Lawrence from Fellow Digitals, please.
Hi, yeah, my name is Lawrence. I am from the Netherlands, Utrecht. And yeah, I'm from Fellow Digitals. And we at Fellow Digitals, just to introduce quickly what we do, is we see that a lot of people in organizations, they struggle with staying up to date with the latest happenings. They struggle with staying informed. We also see that in this digital age, they struggle to find the right information that they need in order to do their work. And lastly is that, we really want to make sure that they receive the trainings to be their best selves. And so we have created an app, a company app, with which people engage in sharing knowledge, trainings, and news, all powered by artificial intelligence, so by AI. And for over the past 12 years, I have been advising companies in how to utilize our tools within their own company. So I'm very happy here. Thanks for the invite, Linda, to talk with the others here about AI in general within the workplace.
Thank you, Lawrence.
Yeah.
We continue with Leonie from the AI Business School, and she will introduce how you at the AI Business School are contributing to new ways of work.
Thank you, Linda. Pleasure to be here. So I'm Leonie. I'm a business development manager at the AI Business School. And so maybe a couple of words about the AI Business School. We've been around since 2018 with this hypothesis that sooner or later AI is going to become highly relevant, not just for tech companies, but really all companies of various industries and sizes. And of course, with the ChatGPT moment 2 years ago, we've seen that the consciousness of AI and the importance of it is on the radar of all companies. However, a lot of companies still don't do very much to leverage that. And so our mission as the AI Business School is to really empower every single employee on the topic of AI. And we basically are a software as a service company. So despite the name, we're not a business school, but we're actually a SaaS company. And we have this AI adoption platform, because what we've seen when it comes to AI, the bottleneck are the humans, are the people, and not the technology, because there's an abundance of technology. And so we have this platform that really is structured around personalized training journeys, about personalized use cases already. Also, we have no code created tools on this platform. And also, we really emphasize the bottom up innovation. And of course, the big crux of this all is this focus on productivity that we see that our customers are the most interested in. And I'm sure as we continue the conversation, I'll be able to elaborate a little bit more on these various points. Thank you, Linda. Back to you.
Yeah, thank you, Leonie. I already took some notes, and we are happy to elaborate on this further. But before this, let's continue with our third panelist, Danielle from the University of Basel. Please.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for the invite, and I'm really happy to be here with all of you. I'm a trainer for digital media and a researcher for digital work culture at the University of Basel. I do applied social research on deep work and digital resilience. And I do this against the backdrop of two phenomena. One I would call digital stress on the one hand, I listed you a couple of labels just to see what I mean when I say digital work, screen work or digital stress. And on the other hand, and maybe that's the topic I would relate to the other two panelists today, I would call it negative digital workflow spirals. Just to briefly sum this phenomena up, research has shown that more digitalization leads to more fragmentation and multitasking, which in turn leads to less productivity. And I try to connect productivity with another phenomena, health or mental health. And I'm pretty sure we'll also talk about this today when we talk about the bottleneck of the people. And we'll dive a bit deeper maybe in the discussion, but just to sum this argument up that I would make with the two fears of productivity and health, if we do not manage digital workflows, it will be a loss of money and human resources. As a trainer and researcher, I try to connect these two spheres, productivity and health. I'll talk about that connection later, maybe. For now, just another argument I'd sum up for you. I think we have a set of, I would call them future skills that are essential in digital work environments, and they are not soft, but really the essence. And if we do not train and implement these skills for employees and managers, essentially addressing the question how to work together with technology, it will be really difficult for a higher outcome of productivity. So I've developed two training modules that stem basically from my research and that I, as a trainer, implement into the practical work environment of a lot of new work environments like home office, flex work, and all these different types. One is on the new productivity and one is on digital leadership. And we can dive into some of the issues later on, and I'm happy to discuss with you guys.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Daniel. So I will just stop sharing my screen because we are done with the presentation. And if you, the panelists, you shared some more slides with me. So if you need them to make your argument, you just tell me and I will show them to the audience. But let's go to our first question. So you've already, we heard a lot of keywords, words like, when it comes to the interaction between humans and AI, and we heard keywords like future skills, mental health, bottleneck are the people. What are your thoughts of when it comes to challenges? Where do you see challenges? Before we then continue with what could be the opportunities.
Who wants to kick off? Yeah.
I'll go ahead.
Yeah.
I'll go ahead.
Great.
So I think I've mentioned it very briefly, but I think the big thing from our perspective is that the bottleneck are the people and not the technology. And maybe you all have already heard this term AI adoption gap. I think that is very central in a lot of companies. And basically what's of course happening, okay, I'm really small in the picture, but the technology just keeps getting better and going up, and the people are kind of staying standard in a way, and they don't really take a lot of initiatives to figure out how to use AI. And the issue that we also see with a lot of companies, in a lot that kind of doesn't support this idea of closing the AI adoption gap, is they often focus on their use cases. So they really focus on how can I create my own custom AI use case that will cost me millions and millions. And or if there are already AI solutions that can already be introduced in the company to boost productivity. I mean, these are important questions, and I'm not saying that they need to be neglected at all. I'm really not saying that. But in parallel to that, it's imperative that the people learn how to use the use cases, and for that to work, they actually need to know how to apply AI in their daily work. And I think this is pretty much a big challenge that we see at the moment.
Thank you.
I think I can't agree more to that. If what we see in companies as well, I think then besides having AI integrated into the daily work, in their daily work, it's also a question of how is that going to change the culture within a company. We are used to work. That's what we discussed beforehand as well. We are used to work between 9 to 5. Are we now expected to produce more with all the AI tools that we have within the same day? Or can we free up more time now that we utilize all of these AI tools? Those are questions that needs to be asked within companies. And I don't have the answer to that. Not now, at least. I do think we can have meaningful work, but I do think it's a challenge and it's a hurdle of a lot of companies in this day and age, that we are used to have these old standards of working. It's kind of a revolution that we are going into right now. And how is that going to change the daily? Perhaps Daniel, you have. What do you think of that? My question is more if I had a poll here, for example, are we expected to produce more between 9 to 5 now?
I think maybe I can directly jump to that. Maybe Linda, you could share the slide, one of the slides that I've sent you, because I think when it comes to technology or to really human tech interactions, it's really important to not only focus on the technology itself or on the people, but just about the relationship that technology and people have together. And the question you raised up, I think that is or one of maybe the next one. Yes. It's in German. I'll translate if it's you.
That's fine. Yeah.
So I think the main challenge is to that time that is free now. What do we use it for? Because what do we have all these technologies if later on we just have to double the work and do more work? Then what do we gain? What do we do with this time? And also addressing another question is how much time do we actually gain when we are not thinking about that human tech relationship? And I've brought a study from 2 years ago for the German context. And this really struck me because I had higher numbers, but it was a qualitative study where they asked to 640 knowledge workers, so people like most of us that work in front of a screen, to kind of notice and write it down when they are interrupted within their current work process. And it turns out that every 4 minutes people get interrupted within their whatever they do. And if you count that refocus time, you will actually lose, as a company, you will lose 3 days a month on salary for people refocusing on their interruptions. So they need to, that time they need to get back when they started something, then stopped, and they got into it again. And I mean, I would really understand if people get paid 3 days and they can go on vacation. At least they have something from it. But in that case, neither the company nor the people have anything from it, because they will just lose three days of productivity, and that's a lot of money. I don't know, maybe if all of you, for an experiment, maybe you can write in the chat how many employees exist in your companies. That would be of interest for me, but maybe more or less just write in a number. So I think, to bring it back to the question on the challenge, it's really, if you have something, a new technology like AI, how on a day-to-day basis do people use it actually to gain time? Because if you use a technology like any technology and you get interrupted and you need more time to refocus, then the time that you gain through the technology, you'll actually lose on the other side. So the question is really how to create together a working culture where people even embrace the technology that is new, and to learn how to work together with technology.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I see. Oh, so yeah, and I see
Go ahead.
that. Yeah, no, it is a good point, Daniel. And with that, you mean that it should be, from a company's perspective, introduced to its employees and how they can utilize that, or okay, because we see a lot of business, and maybe I don't know how you see that, Leonie, but when I'm at a company, and I do see that it's pretty much everyone for themselves when it comes to AI tools. Some people are using ChatGPT, some people are using that tools and these tools in their own ways. And what I also do see in some bigger companies is that, let's say you have a marketing department of 20 people, half of them is using AI tools and the other half isn't, that you get this output differences and this. So I do agree, Daniel, it's extremely important that from a company's perspective, and maybe that's a management or director's role, to have clear outlines. Okay, this is the way we're going to work now with these tools. But I fully support that. But what I do see now in companies is that it's pretty much everyone for themselves still. So I think that's also something that needs some attention here and there. And I think, yeah, Leonie, with AI Business School, I think that's what you saw. Oh, sorry. So
yeah,
I
no,
don't know how you see that.
So I think from my perspective, especially with larger companies, I think one aspect that is obviously good, but also hinders a lot of the innovation and people actually tackling AI tools is the whole topic of governance. It's actually there's a really large number of companies who don't allow users to go on to ChatGPT because they haven't had the education, what it means to like have the risks when it comes to AI, and especially the data considerations. So often the way to go is to just turn it off, which of course isn't ideal either, because then of course that really stifles the innovation aspect of things. So that's certainly something that we see. And also another trend that we see, which also isn't exactly, poses a lot of challenges, is oftentimes you have these 5% in a company, often IT people, but not only IT people, who actually really know how to use these AI tools. And then funnily enough, it's the companies that invest in those people that already know how to use it. But I think it kind of creates, again, it just enlarges the AI adoption gap, because 95% of business people don't know or have not had the opportunity to really use the AI tools. And I think it's there when it comes to like scalable productivity, where most of the potential lies. So I think that's definitely also another challenge that we've been experiencing in that sense.
Mm-hmm. Very, very interesting, and thank you for throwing the ball to one of another and reacting on what you said. Also, like and we're already like after now taking or having some insights on the challenges, we're kind of started towards the solutions, because the three of our panelists, they work at companies or work on topics, and they're actually offering solutions when it comes to these new ways of work. So that people don't have to just produce more in this 9 to 5 working hours, as Lawrence mentioned, but that it can actually, that it can be more efficient, and that people stay healthy and not stressed. So maybe you want to elaborate on that also, like maybe Leonie, you can start, because you already mentioned the use cases and the learning from bottom up learning, let's say.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think the bottom-up learning approach brings a lot of opportunities to actually implement use cases, because we see with the AI Business School, with our platform, we basically have an ideation challenge integrated in that. And it's especially like, let's say, the normal people, like not the ones who are like in the highest leadership positions, but it's usually the normal people that really have the time to reflect on how they would use AI for themselves, for the team, or for the company as a whole, to really become more productive, to actually also proactively move against the mega trends, such as like the workforce shortage or like the budget cuts and so on and so forth. And it's actually in that ideation challenge where then a lot of the use cases are identified, which obviously is a very positive movement that we have within the companies. And based on that, this is then where later on the question arises between, are we going to build our own AI use cases or solutions, or is it kind of covered with off the shelf? So, and I think also based on that, what we also see more and more when it comes to sort of the opportunities and the positive movements, of course, is not just the focus on efficiency and productivity, because that is sort of a given, but we also see with our users more and more the mindset also towards AI agents, which obviously is a huge potential when it comes to companies. So I think that is a massive opportunity. It's all the hype in Silicon Valley right now, this move towards AI agents. And I think this is also something that we see reflected in the ideas that our users are actually sharing within their companies, for sure. But I'm sure like Lawrence and Daniel, you probably have a lot of probably different perspectives. So I kind of stuck to the effects from AI Business School perspective. I'm curious to hear about both of yours.
Daniel, you want to go first?
No, go ahead.
Are we talking like a bit about opportunities here? Maybe you can share slide number 11 then,
Sure.
Linda. I think it was last year. I'm not exactly sure, but I think last year Deloitte conducted a research which states that 44% of Gen Z employees in Switzerland, they plan to leave or to change their jobs within the next 2 years. So 44% of Gen Z Switzerland employees plan to change their jobs in the next 2 years. That's kind of similar if you take a look at the European way. That's extremely high, if you ask me. And what they have done is also asking, okay, what is it then that people leave their jobs? And that's then the next slide. It's not even pay. Well, it comes second. But most people didn't find their work to be fulfilling or meaningful. And in fact, reason number 3 for leaving in Switzerland was that the workplace negatively affected their mental health. And I'm sure that has to do with the point number 1, because if you are doing work that's not fulfilling or meaningful, that it might be detrimental to your mental health. And I do believe that the opportunity here with AI, as simple as something like ChatGPT, if it's being used by, let's say you have to make transcribing information, or you have to search for stupid data within Excel sheets. Yeah, that's things that AI can do. And then these people that normally they spend hours shifting through data or transcribing stuff, they can now shift that into doing more meaningful work, perhaps, and let AI do the boring stuff, right? So that's what we see at Fellow Digitals more as well. That's same for for creating courses, for example. internal courses, onboarding courses. There's already so much data within the company. And we see a simple case here, for example, that it took them hours to create these courses, to gather all that information. Now is that they put this information, if it's not too sensitive, of course, in their own language model or ChatGPT, and those are then creating the courses for these people. But I find this extremely interesting, that we can maybe make the shift to more meaningful work and ditch all the manual digital labor, so to say.
I think it's necessary. I don't think companies can afford to not make that move, especially with the Gen Z generation, right? Mm-hmm. I'm with you on that. Yeah.
Maybe I can connect to one of the questions that were put in, asked in the chat, because I mean, this is really from the company's point of view. This is all nice, you know, this technology, but in the day-to-day business, there's no time to implement, because we come from a crisis, or maybe a crisis is coming back. So how, on a day-to-day level, how do we introduce them? And I think that is really the key. When we understand, and now I want to connect also to the question of purpose, when we understand that AI, for example, might be a chance to give meaningful work back to the people that do work, and I think that certainly is possible. The first step would be to create together the purpose of AI. So why should we use AI? And I think this is only possible when we come from a bottom-up approach, when we do this together, because otherwise everyone will just use these technologies the way that they think it is correct. And by that, maybe we have more interruptions and more fragmentations, because like now, when it comes to communication tools, for example, everyone prefers his or her communication tool, and this has actually led to more interruptions and more and less productivity. So together tackling the question of purpose, but this is also framed as an opportunity. This is the chance for the companies to not see that as a waste of time, but we have a really powerful technology coming here. It's already there. Together implement it. And I think there is one big argument connecting mental health and productivity, and that's I can only repeat the numbers that I mentioned before. If companies lose 3 days, and now we can multiply the number you put into the chat with the salary for the people for 3 days, you have a lot of resources you can invest to hire people that their only job is together within the company to give that AI purpose. And this means to listen to the actual jobs that people do. Because another frustrating number that I read in the same study is, and for example, we come to a technology like communication technologies, that the same people that said that lost 3 days a month for the interruptions, they think they lose 2 days for unnecessary meetings. But still, I'm saying everyone, a lot of companies use technologies where everyone can just establish a meeting whenever they want, and together they interrupt each other. And if we take this seriously, and from AI, it would mean tackling these questions right from the beginning when they come up, and not when we have these technologies introduced 3, 4, 5 years, like now we have it with the communications technologies, then it's really harder to tackle these issues. So the opportunity is really to together embrace these new technologies. They will come, and to see it as an opportunity to both address productivity and mental health together. But that means to really take the human factor seriously.
Yeah, and maybe to just add on that, I completely agree. I think one mindset that companies really need to move away from when it comes to AI is really this idea that, oh, AI is a project. I'm going to commit to this for a year to really introduce it to my people. And after a year, it's done. Well, the reality is AI is probably not going to leave again. With the Gen AI wave, the opportunities have been way too broad. So I think thinking on a larger scale, as connected to mental health, as connected to purpose, as Daniel and Lawrence have mentioned, I think is completely imperative, because it's not going to go away. AI shouldn't be seen as a project, but really as a continuous element that will be part of our daily work life. And I think that really needs to be at the core, and it needs to be a big mindset shift, because I think a lot of companies still have this idea AI is a project.
Yeah. And I think as well, how when it comes to, because I saw a question, okay, so how do we then, we're busy with our daily work, are we actually then starting this? And I think in the end, it is also a management decision that they just say to the company, and well, now that's what we did in our company. We had a workshop, we had 2 people that knew everything about AI, as simple as ChatGPT prompting in how to write a nice mail or take out grammar mistakes, whatever. We all came together and we said, now we're now going to spend 2 hours trying to find use cases for our own company. Now we come together on a regular basis and discuss that. What did we find? But that did come from a director of management perspective, them saying, well, and now we are just going to do this. Otherwise, it's going to be a vague, an ad hoc, once in a year.
True.
For me, that's yeah.
Maybe I can connect that to another question that was raised. I mentioned we can do this only together, and the question was, what does it mean? And I think the example you mentioned is what I mean by doing this together. It's not the management coming with a tool and say, here it is and that's it. But you have to do it together with the people that later on will use these technologies to create that purpose together. For what sorts of work could we use what AI to do what? That means giving purpose. And this is not something that should be decided from top down, because we know from work studies, we know that people will find their work around with technologies if they not agree with the purpose. So they will use technology in a totally different way that the management has decided. And this is exactly what happened to the communication technologies. Everyone, and when it comes to their own personal time management, everyone thinks like it'd be nice to have a meeting on Thursday, and the other one, it'd be nice to have a meeting on Friday. So together we interrupt our working days by using a technology like the ones we are using right now, for example, because we haven't thought together as a company, as a team, whatever a scale you use there. We haven't thought of how we want to use that together and not only individually. And once we do that and we create a new working culture together, and what you mentioned, Lawrence, is exactly that, to have a workshop, to invite the experts, and then together find ways to do that. That's what I meant by together.
I agree. Yeah. To come back to maybe one question here, Frank said, okay, so Lawrence, I heard you mention the words meaningful work. I don't mean necessarily meaningful work in saving lives here. But what I can remember from my own work, for example, is I do workshops, and these workshops take around two hours. And after each workshop, I had this whole notebook of notes in there, and it would take me longer than the actual workshop to digitalize them, get them in order, make an email, send it back to the one I gave the workshop. And now I can actually that AI, and again, I just use ChatGPT here. It has saved me so much time to do that stupid work that I never liked, and can now put more time into maybe extending the workshop a little bit, giving more advice to them, having that more one-to-one connection with that person I'm giving the workshop with. So it frees up time to advise and be more present with the one I'm having the workshop with, instead of having to think, well, it's about 2 hours. I still need 3 hours to to put this all on paper and everything. So that's a bit what I mean with doing a bit more meaningful work instead of the administrative backlog that builds up.
Yeah, very, very interesting. Thank you for these inputs. And I think Yeah, we're already in the midst of the discussion with all the participants here. You took up some questions and responded to them directly, but we still have some open questions that maybe now, Cecile, please could you share them and also engage the community a bit more. Thank you.
Of course. Thank you so much also for this great discussion until now. You've also already answered some of the questions that are in the chat. One question that was asked by Thomas Schubert is kind of looking at the time-consuming aspect of implementing AI, especially in smaller firms or SMEs. Maybe do you have practical examples of how you recommend to go about that as an SME?
Let me jump on this right away. From my experience, actually, it's the SMEs who are way more flexible than like the really big corporate institutions. Of course, it means the resources are differently allocated, but when it comes to also like the experimentation phase with AI, I think actually KMUs like SMEs are much better equipped. And I think part of it has a lot to do with trial and error, because when you start introducing AI, whether it's be off-the-shelf use cases or like bespoke use cases, which obviously are more expensive, so hopefully you have more errors with the off-the-shelf use cases, but it will be a trial and error process. I think you need to figure out as a company what works for you. And with one of our best customers, we've also seen, like, especially in Europe, and I think that's also one of the reasons to why we are not exactly in the forefront with the AI race. Europeans, and especially the Swiss, I would say also the Germans, or just like the DACH, they love to plan. So I think when it comes to like introducing an AI strategy, they spend months and months planning on that. And of course, AI moves at such a quick pace. I don't think that's the best approach. So with our best clients, we really see they plan about 25%, and otherwise they just go for it. They try out, they see what resonates with the people, where the big productivity lies. If it doesn't work, then they adjust it slightly. If it doesn't work at all, then they say, okay, failed, let's move on to the next thing. So I think it's very much of an attitude of being more of a doer rather than a planner, which I think is also a big mindset thing within a company. But I would say, honestly, overall, from what I've seen, SMEs are usually better equipped to kind of embrace that sort of change because of the agility that they have compared to corporate institutions. That's from my perspective. My advice on that is just trial and error all the way.
I can agree with that. I think especially in SMEs, it's much easier to also ask within the company who is already using it. Share your insights, share your use case, and start from there. Perhaps it's that's. But I could not agree more with what you say.
Daniel, do you want to add something to that, or should we move to the next question?
I mean, maybe I can add one thing that is kind of repeating also the baseline that I'm offering on technology today is that it's sort of a risk. It's a gamble, I guess, for every company. But I mean, I think every one of us agrees, and in the chat, some of you mentioned it, that AI is not going away. So you can either say that we'll just wait until some sort of AI culture has been there and adopts whatever AI tools they can get their hold on, and everyone uses AI how he or she thinks it's best. And then you deal with that like you're dealing with it now in your company with all the new communication tools that we have. Or you take the risk and say, this is a new technology, it will come. So we should invest in training for special staff, for special employees that do not have any other purpose but implementing together from a bottom-up approach, new tools, like Lawrence mentioned it before in a workshop, asking for trainings and implement it right from the start. Of course, this means invest, and this means a shifting of and helping people that have a lot on their plate to do something else, and this means like a restructuring part. But I mean, there's no really another alternative to it other than okay, let's just wait until it is there. And we've seen how that works with how that has worked with the other technologies that we are all using now on a big level for the last 3 or 4 years. So yeah, it is sort of a gamble, but once you engage it and you actively do something about it, I think you'll get a lot out of it.
Thank you. So one element that I wanted to bring in, that's my question to you, speakers or panelists, is, so we've talked a lot about the human AI collaboration, and there are a lot of studies that show that many people are also afraid of AI taking their jobs. So we've now, we did talk about the challenges, but I think it is a challenge to empower people, to also not be scared of using these tools and not be scared of AI taking over their jobs. Maybe could you say something about that, how you navigate that within your own companies, but also with your customers?
Leonie, you want to start?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's a really fair point. I think overall, the elegance that Gen AI has, like generative AI, it is super approachable. So I think ChatGPT, for someone who's never used it, it sounds very grand. I think these solutions, they can sound super grand, like what does even GPT stand for? What is a GPT? But I think once you actually make it approachable and accessible to the people in a very scalable and broad way, which is also basically the AI Business School mission, I think then people, when they actually start using these tools, especially LLMs, I think they actually realize, oh, it's so well done. It's so intuitive. I can just chat like a friend. And I think that is something that is really the first step when it comes to that, is really showing them that AI is actually quite approachable. But of course, it doesn't really circumvent the issue, is AI going to take my job? And I think one trend that we have definitely been seeing already now is that people who know how to use AI have a huge competitive advantage versus the ones that don't, especially in interview processes. So that is definitely a trend that is already happening. So the risk is absolutely there, but all I can really say there is upskilling, ensure that these companies invest in every single employee, show them where the opportunities lie with AI for their job specific every day. And I think they will be more equipped. And I think the roles will transform themselves. I do believe there are some roles that will be eliminated over time. But I think overall it'll be a greater transformation rather than just a complete elimination of the job market. And I'm saying all of this with the hypothesis that AGI, so artificial general intelligence, isn't like quite around the corner. We don't know what the future brings, like whether we will reach this point that AI is going to be cleverer than any human brain. But I think that's pretty much the status quo.
I think what you said, it is job transformation, not elimination. That's what people should not forget, also if looking back to the history. So that's just pretty, yeah. It's funny because I'm going to be honest, I just typed it while you were speaking, Leonie, I typed it into ChatGPT asking if people are afraid of AI taking over jobs. They gave also this answer. Like it's not going to eliminate. Sure, they are, but most likely it will evolve into a job transformation.
Good to know that I still have like the equivalent intelligence to ChatGPT.
Of AI. Yeah. No, yeah. Yeah.
Maybe I can add another term to this or concept. I would frame it digital leadership. And what I mean with digital leadership, I think and that's why I called it future skills in the presentation in the beginning. I think one of the competences for leadership is to think about the digital, not only about technology and its code and you implement it and then you use it, but think about the human tech interactions and relationships. And this really means to understand the broader context of an implementation and integration of technology. And I think this is a question of formation. So if you do not know what digital leadership means, there's also knowledge about exactly this, how to integrate technology into a working environment and not just have everyone else use it like they think it's best, because this might work if you're an individual, you find your best routines, but not as a company. So I think it needs, and like one precise element of digital leadership is to understand that you need to implement technology together with the employees and not just drop it there and then everyone has it. And I think the smaller companies are equipped for that. You mentioned it. The bigger companies, usually they have the department that's buying a technical solution and then here it is. And then they have huge problems. I just one from my research, I'll tell you one anecdote from one of the companies where the fragmentation and interruptions I mentioned before was so enormous that people they couldn't get to work together on a project because they constantly kept interrupting each other. And the one tool that was responsible for that was Slack, and they didn't even think about the possibility for focused work time. And this is actually what I do in my workshops. For focused work time, just deactivate Slack. That was not something that popped up in their mind. And the bosses, the leadership, on the leadership level, they don't even have the idea that this might be something not or something very relevant to do that. So there was a lacking of digital leadership where people on a leadership level did not understand what does that mean in a day-to-day context, the constant interruptions. So the formation, I think, is the first start. Together, top down is not the solution, but you have to introduce it, of course, as a leadership on a leadership level, and then work it together.
So we have, we'll take one more question from the chat. So Frank actually asked whether AI helps us become more creative because it frees up time and repetitive work is done by AI. Is that, in your view, the case? Like, do we spend more time on creative tasks and creativity, or not really?
You mean with AI or?
So thanks to AI, do we have more time to be creative? Are we using the time to be creative or not? Maybe Daniel, that would be interesting to hear from you.
I mean, right now, we know that we're using 60% of our time, of our working time, to manage communication. So we're using communication tools, and only 40% of tools that we would consider creative. I'm putting that in parentheses because the creative part is also something like Excel. They call that as a creative part. And I think this is exactly where AI might help to boost up the creative part. But right now, I think we're just, I mean, everyone probably knows that most of our day-to-day life consists on the communication part and not the creative part. And I think it would be possible, but again, only together if we ask ourselves, and that comes back to the question of purpose. Why do we want to use AI? For what creative part do we need that? And what is the work that is not creative that we want to hand over to AI?
Thank you so much. I think this leads to the last question that I ask you before I hand back to Linda, is I would like to hear very shortly what your vision is for the future if we were to now really implement AI and for us to really upskill and reskill when needed. Laurens, do you want to start?
Yeah. I will keep it close to what we do then. There's two points. So we have a learning management system that companies can use to train employees, especially for onboarding purposes. And what we do see is that a lot of companies, they don't have a proper onboarding, online onboarding. but they do at the same time have a lot of documents about their products, services, whatever. And in a far future, well, maybe not that far, I do believe that with the help of AI, we can index all of the information that we have, and then as an output, personalize that into a very personalized onboarding experience for that colleague that just started, based on their role, based on where they are. That's something that we are currently really into. And at the same time, besides an LMS, we do have intranet, where there's a lot of information, too much information in most cases. People spend most of their time just searching for documents, not the answer. First the document, then the answer. And so I guess we have to eliminate that middle thing there, is that just like ChatGPT, that if you search for something on your intranet, holiday leave, some information about holiday leave, that you get the answer based on everything that has been indexed with a link to the source of where they can then find more information. I think that's a bit what we work on in today's business.
Thanks for this very practical outlook.
Yeah.
I now want to ask you, Leonie, what is your vision?
So from my perspective, and that kind of links to the earlier question as well about the creativity answer. So I think my vision is that with AI, a generic approach is no longer sufficient because it is literally satisfied by AI. So from my perspective, creativity, we are actually forced to use more creativity because, like, for example, someone who works in sales, the generic stuff isn't going to work anymore. So I think the nice thing is there isn't going to be more free time to figure out how to have creative approaches. So I think that's one aspect that I'm definitely seeing that will really transform the job landscape. I think to kind of bring it down to numbers, so just kind of in a very practical way from what we see with our customers, once they started like the AI adoption journey with us, about a year and a half later, we can actually see that the productivity increase, like the actual productivity increase they've gained after a year and a half, is 9%. But the users also say, we predict we can reach the 20%. So our hypothesis is that after 3 years, after they start this upskilling program, then 3 years' time, you could actually be, as a company, 20% more productive. So I really do believe that's absolutely achievable. And I think the other thing for the vision for the future, more general, I'm just really interested in the AI agents trend. I think that's going to be a huge revolutionizing element that is going to come our way sooner or later. Currently still, I would say, very much contained to Silicon Valley, but once that kind of floods the world, I think that will also change the landscape to not just 20% productivity, but we're talking about like 120% productivity increases, which would change everything for sure.
Thank you, Leonie. It's of course very interesting to see what the future holds and the trends show in that direction. So yes, last but not least, Daniel, what's your vision?
I think my vision would be to understand that productivity and mental health really come together, and this means to reframe the idea of leadership and the usage of technology to be the digital is not something that comes on top, but is really essential in how work is restructured. And I think AI is at the core of this transformation. And to have a new digital leadership role model, I would call that, needs training. I think it really needs training. And I think, to come back to one of the questions, I think this training cannot be, from my experience as a trainer on digital media, it cannot be outsourced to another program. So it really needs to work with people and to transform that human technology environment in a way that we give purpose and we give meaning again to our work. Because I mean, when a crisis starts, that maybe a lot of the people that Lawrence, you mentioned that statistics, maybe some of these people will think, I'll stay with my job because it's a secure job. But once the crisis is gone, you will lose, companies will lose the motivated ones. And I think to keep the motivated ones means to give them a mental, healthy working environment. And this in turn will boost productivity. And I think AI is at the core to that transformations. If we understand that, we can only do that together.
Thank you so much. I now hand back to Linda.
Yeah, thank you to all of you for this very engaged discussion. I mean, I think there is, I want to do a wrap up, but everything has already been said in these last statements. I think for me, it was really nice to see that we don't have a dystopic, or didn't have a dystopic discussion here, but that we all see like opportunities when it comes to AI that is here to stay, AI and other emerging technologies. And yeah, that we as humans have to find new ways and practices to deal with it and to use it, so that we don't lose the jobs, but that the AI takes away the jobs we don't want to do, and the less meaningful, less fulfilling work. And I also really want to thank all the participants for your questions, for your remarks, and to you, the panelists, Lawrence, Leonie, and Daniel, for sharing your knowledge and your insights, and also like showcasing your practical solutions that you have to this challenge. And also thank you to my colleague Cecile for leading the Q&A session. With this, I really wish you a very nice afternoon, very productive and fulfilling afternoon. Hand over the tasks you don't want to do to to AI or to technologies, and yeah, I wish you a very, very nice rest of the week, and I thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you everyone for coming.
Thank you.
Yo, cheers.